Hello and welcome to another message. I do apologize. We are running under some technical difficulties this week. So hopefully the next time that I do a message online, we will have our correct equipment. We're having some technical issues this week. So hopefully this video will go out and the sound as well as the audio video will uh, work for this week. So today's topic is on evaluation, self-evaluation actually. In Second Corinthians chapter 13, verse 5, Paul talks about testing ourselves, giving ourselves that test. Are we truly a Christian? Are we truly living with God in our hearts, Jesus Christ in our hearts? So that got me thinking, since it happens to be New Year's Eve, about let's go ahead and let's evaluate ourselves, right? At the end of the year, how did we do last year? How are we going to do next year? So I posed that question to our congregation today, and I had a couple people who had answers, and there were some of them that were stuff that I was familiar with. Now, the last week or so, I actually looked up, I researched this topic to find some of the things that we want to talk about, some of the things that you would want to see in an evaluation as a Christian. Because a lot of people don't know, how do I evaluate? How am I doing as a Christian? So let me give you a few things that I had learned from looking at different websites. First one I'm going to talk about, and my list is around 8. Uh, I've seen some that had 25. The first one we're going to talk about is basically having time in services as well as in spending time with God, right? Are you doing your scripture reading? Are you praying? Are you spending that time with God? Now, I know there are some people, like my parents, who basically every single day they wake up, they spend about 5 to 10 minutes working, doing scripture reading. Sometimes they'll include their dogs in it. So they are devoted to that. Then there are some of us that are struggling, right? Do we really schedule that time to spend with God? And it doesn't have to be reading, like, okay, I want you to read the first chapter of Ezekiel this week. Just spending time with God, listening to some of the stories that God has given us. The second one is impure thoughts, right? This is kind of the sketchy one. A lot of people, sometimes we actually have impure thoughts, right? And it just doesn't have to be when you think of impure thoughts uh, about somebody else. Impure thoughts could be, uh, gosh, man, it's been a rough day. What I wouldn't give to have a drink, right? That may not sound like a lot, but basically, when you drink, when you do stuff like that, you're taking yourself away from God, right? You're finding something that will stop the pain. Another type of thing with impure thoughts is when we are put in situations. For example, road rage, right? Somebody cuts you off. A lot of times when someone cuts you off, immediately we're like, oh my gosh, that person is blah, blah, blah. You would like to express how you feel about that person. Sometimes it's not good. So, what can we do on that? How can we improve not having impure thoughts? We all know the story about the two wolves, right? One is good, one is evil. The one that wins is the one you feed the most. So maybe substituting, right? Instead of, man, I would love to have a drink, man, I can't wait till I get home so I can spend some time reading about a scripture or reading something about how someone overcame that, right? Substituting in a way. Third topic we're going to talk about is financial. The reason that we talk about financial and we talk about it in Christianity is basically if we don't keep track of our finances, how can we truly serve? For example, a couple years ago, it's been a while, I had somebody who worked in the same area that I did, and this person was getting their life back together. They just got custody of their kids, and so they're working over, right? I've got to work over, I got to get the bills paid, I got to do this, you know, I've got to feed for the kids, cool kids are going back to school. So they worked over 1 week, and it was like they worked 70 hours, I want to say, right? An exorbitant amount of hours. So they had all this extra money. So Monday comes around, we're asking him, well, how did it go? Did your kids like, because he talked about, getting them school supplies. He goes, oh man, no, I saw a pair of Nike Air Jordans, something like that. Some sneaker that he was interested in. So he went and bought that instead. And I'm like, did you have any money for your kids' food for the week until you get paid again? It's like, ah, man, I found like a couple boxes of cereal in the cabinet, and if they really truly get hungry, they get tired of cereal, I can just drop them off at grandma and grandpa's. That's not really being financially, right? He went and spent his money on something, and in turn, he couldn't feed God's people, right? He couldn't feed his children. So we need to be financially responsible. The next one that I'm going to talk about is spending time with family and friends, right? So again, one of the biggest commandments that Jesus gave us is to love one another and feed my people. They desire your communication. They desire spending time with you. One of the most impactful statements that I learned when I was young was actions speak louder than words. People remember you spending time with them. People remember you going out of your way and just, the small conversations. They remember that more than when you buy them a gift, right? Something expensive. So spend time with people, right? And you will actually learn a lot of the stuff that I learned, a lot of the things that kept me going over the years. I actually learned from having those conversations, having that time with friends and family. Moving on to that, basically the next one is spending time with other people, right? Uh, People that you normally don't spend time with. So, my point of example of this, and I'm not dogging them at any time, but if you think about like 1400s, 1500s, the Franciscan, the Benedictine monks, when you think about those monks right there, right, you're thinking that they were in a monastery and they're spending all this time to become closer to God. But unless somebody came to the monastery, they weren't really spreading the word, right? They weren't spreading their knowledge. That would be kind of like if I have a talent and the only time you would ever hear that talent is if you happen to be walking by my house or happen to be in the house when I'm demonstrating that talent. Nobody can see it, right? God gives us these gifts. We've got to share them. So, moving on the list, the next topic I'm going to talk about is um, taking good care of ourselves, right? Taking good care of our bodies. Now, when you think about Christianity, like why are we worried about our bodies? Well, in the Bible, it does talk about our body being a temple, and here's a good example, a good reason for that. So, over the years, I suffer from migraines. I've suffered from sinuses. I have allergies. Right. If I don't take my allergy medication, if I don't clean out my sinuses, if I don't take good care of my health, how can I spread the word as a pastor, as a speaker? How can I do that if I'm sick, right? People are going to start wondering if I didn't take care of my body and I gained extra weight, uh, if I passed out because the Lord has hit me with some information, or if it was medical, right? So we need to take care of our bodies so we can be around, so we can be available. Moving on, this is the last topic I'm probably going to talk about today, and that is not allowing people to take away your joy. This is probably the hardest one, right? Because we're so used to pleasing people. A lot of people that are Christians, we want to please people. We want people to be happy, right? We find happiness. And this is something that we learn as being a servant of God, right? Serving God's people before we serve ourselves because we find happiness in doing those acts. So when someone's not happy, especially at us, we feel it. It impacts us. But we shouldn't let people take away our joy. If someone has a discouraging comment or they have something, right, we shouldn't let it affect us. I know that there was a statement that a friend made. I used to work out with people, right? I used to be a kind of like a physical trainer, helping them to improve their health. And I had somebody, and I was trying to encourage them. So I went on the superhero kick, and I related to them how they were embodying Wonder Woman, right? And because of their abilities and what their body was built like, how they could be, they are getting better. And so one day I kindly asked them, like, "Hey, what do you think about me? What type of superhero would you describe me as?" And they said the thing, right? So You could have picked anyone else, right? Thor, Superman, Batman, even uh, anybody, but really a monster, right? A giant square-bodied creature, right? Nothing that kind of affected me, right? But if I didn't let it affect me, I'm like, hey, you know what? The thing, right? He's dependable. He's going to last around a long time. He's incredibly strong, right? I should have not let them take away my joy. And then all of a sudden, because I have a poor body image myself, I shouldn't let them affect me, right? I should say, you know what? At least they're saying I'm dependable, right? And I am incredibly strong, right? I should have found the joy in that situation, that disparaging comment, and not let the bad affect me. So we shouldn't let people tear us down. So as you set your New Year's resolutions, as you evaluate yourself as a Christian, and again, the only one that can truly judge you, human, earthly wise, is yourself. You're the one that truly knows you. Look to become a better Christian. Right? So I gave you some simple examples, some simple things that we can do. Right? Work on your health, work on your body, work on spending time with people. Right? That's a big one. And finances, work on that stuff, which is typically our normal resolutions, and you will find yourself getting closer to God. You will find yourself Jesus in your heart, in your soul. So until next time, thank you so much for participating. I hope you guys have a wonderful time and see you again. Bye.